The people and the government will, of course, do everything possible to help ourselves in the process of rebuilding and recovery from this colossal calamity. At least half of the framework plan will be implemented from our own resources. At the level of our local communities, we are already engaged in rebuilding and restoration of homes, villages, roads, and communication networks. Yet Pakistan will need considerable support over the next several years from our international partners to implement this comprehensive plan. We will transform the challenge of recovery and reconstruction into an opportunity to build a more resilient Pakistan, an economy which is dynamic and sustainable. We are determined to do it in an open, transparent, and collaborative way. Excellencies, the rationale for this conference is to demonstrate the international solidarity with Pakistan as it begins its journey towards building back better. We see this conference not as a one-off event, but as the commencement of a long-term partnership with our friends and development partners. We look forward to the generous and sustained commitment of support from you all. I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. We will now watch a video on the floods and rains in Pakistan. now request the Secretary General of the United Nations, Mr. Antonio Guterres, to give his remarks.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, Excellencies, dear friends, thank you all for gathering in solidarity with the people of Pakistan. For decades, I've been privileged to witness the boundless generosity and resilience of the Pakistani people amidst grave threats and upheaval. From earthquakes and floods, to years of relentless terrorist attacks, to geopolitical nightmares like the wars in Afghanistan that have sent millions fleeing across the Pakistani border in search of safety over the decades, a trend that continues today. But even through the darkest moments, the giving spirit of the Pakistani people has shone brightly. I've seen neighbors helping neighbors with food, water and shelter. And I've seen Pakistani communities welcome Afghan refugees with open arms despite their scarce resources. So my heart broke when I saw firsthand the utter devastation. The giving spirit of the Pakistani people has shown brightly. I've seen neighbors helping neighbors. But it was especially bitter to watch that country's generous spirit being repaid with a climate disaster of monumental scale. As the video we just watched showed, the epic floods were nothing short of a monsoon on steroids, as I mentioned in my visit, submerging 1/3 of the country, 3 times the area of my own country, Portugal. A terrifying wall of water killed more than 1,700 people, injured thousands more, and affected a total of more than 33 million, displacing 8 million people. It swept over roads, ruined millions of acres of agricultural land, and damaged or destroyed 2 million homes. And it pushed back 9 million people to the brink of poverty. These are not numbers on a page. They are individual women, children, and men. They are families and communities. And under the leadership of the government of Pakistan, the United Nations donors and friends rallied to assist. Tents, food, water, medicine, and cash transfers were distributed. And the humanitarian response plan of $816 million was launched. But all of that is just a trickle of support in the face of the growing flood of need. At the same time, the people of Pakistan met this epic tragedy with heroic humanity. From the first responders rushing to affected communities, to the doctors and nurses I met, fighting against stunts to save lives in overcrowded hospitals. And I will never forget hearing the personal testimonies of women and men I met in September in the wake of the ruins. They left their own homes and all their worldly possessions to help their neighbors escape the rising waters. They sacrificed all they had to help others and bring them to safety. Excellencies, we must match the heroic response of the people of Pakistan with our own efforts and massive investments to strengthen their communities for the future. Rebuilding Pakistan in a resilient way will run in excess of $16 billion US, and far more will be needed in the longer term. And this includes not only flood recovery and rehabilitation efforts, but also initiatives to address daunting social, environmental, and economic challenges. Reconstructing homes and buildings, redesigning public infrastructure, including roads, bridges, schools and hospitals, jump-starting jobs and agriculture, ensuring that technology and knowledge are shared with Pakistan to support its efforts to build a climate-resilient future. And throughout, supporting women and children, we are up to 14 times more likely than men to die during disasters and face the brunt of upheaval and loss in humanitarian crises. Women are consistently on the front lines of support during times of crisis, including in Pakistan. Their efforts are essential to a strong, equal, inclusive recovery. It is crucial that women play their full part as leaders and participants at every level, contributing their insights and solutions. And we also need to right a fundamental wrong. Pakistan is doubly victimized by climate chaos and the morally bankrupt global financial system. That system routinely denies middle-income countries the debt relief and concessional funding needed to invest in resilience against natural disasters. And so we need creative ways for developing countries to access debt relief and concessional financing when they need it the most. And above all, we need to be honest about the brutal injustice and loss and damage suffered by developing countries because of climate change. If there is any doubt about loss and damage, go to Pakistan. There is loss, there is damage. The devastation of climate change is real. From floods and droughts to cyclones and torrential rains. And as always, those developing countries least responsible are the first to suffer. Pakistan, which represents less than 1% of global emissions, did not cause the climate crisis, but it is living with its worst impacts. South Asia is one of the world's global climate crisis hotspots, in which people are 15 times more likely to die from climate impacts than elsewhere. At a recent UN climate conference in Egypt, the world made some important breakthroughs. This includes progress on addressing loss and damage, speeding the shift to renewables, and an unprecedented call to reform the global financial architecture, particularly multilateral development banks. It also includes accelerating efforts to cover every person in the world with early warning systems against climate disasters within 5 years. But we need to go much further. Countries on the front lines of the climate crisis need massive support. Developed countries must deliver on their commitment to double adaptation finance and meet the $100 billion goal urgently without delay. And we need to reverse the outrageous trend of emissions going up when they must go down to prevent further climate catastrophe. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today's conference is the first step on a much longer journey towards recovery and reconstruction in Pakistan. The United Nations will be there for the long hand. The world must be too. And at every step, we will be inspired by the endurance and generosity of the people of Pakistan in this critical and colossal mission. Thank you.
Thank you deeply, Secretary General. I now call upon the Prime Minister of Pakistan, His Excellency Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, to give his remarks. Sir.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, good morning and guten Morgen. It's really a great pleasure and an honor to be here, and I express my profound gratitude to my friend Secretary General for co-chairing with me this conference. And also, I want to convey, Secretary General, the deep feelings of the people of Pakistan, the way you have promoted their cause, spoken about their miseries and problems, and become a very powerful voice to articulate what they went through during this summer. I remember on 10th of September, I was with you, along with Foreign Minister, in refugee camps in the province of Sindh and Balochistan, and you were standing by orphans, widows, mothers, and I remember vividly, you met a mother who had given birth to a child the night earlier, and a makeshift school run by UNICEF. Excellency, this the people of Pakistan will remember forever. I'm also very grateful to so many heads of states and governments, as well as ministers and other partners who have joined us today. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at a turning point of history. Events are moving faster than we can imagine. And it is not only a question of how to survive, but it's a question how to maintain our bodies. It's a question how to maintain our dignity and honor by moving forward with a sense of purpose and a sense of achievement. Secretary General, as you have just mentioned, the Foreign Minister, you so aptly described, at that time, at the heart of the perfect storm of problems lies this prolonged exposure to a monsoon on steroids. In a matter of 2 months, the ground beneath us was literally, physically taken away. The tsunami, the most devastating floods, affected 33 million people of Pakistan, killed more than 1,700 people, including children, and dislocated 8 million people. More than 8,000 kilometers of roads were washed away, and more than 3,000 rail system was deeply damaged. Education was disrupted for 2.6 million students, including 1 million girls. One can go on about the records broken by this disaster, but truly speaking, we are racing against time. We are very grateful to the generous support extended to my country by the United Nations, the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, the IMF, the AIIB, and the European Union, as well as many friendly countries around the globe. However, relief work is yet not over, especially in parts of Sindh and Balochistan. Our young and able Foreign Minister belongs to the province of Sindh, where the flood water still needs to be drained to reclaim the agricultural land, to grow food, to build homes, reconstruct infrastructure, and rehabilitate institutions and services. Excellencies, you will appreciate that we need to give 33 million people who are deeply affected by the floods their future back. Their families must stand on their feet, and they must come back in life and earn their livelihood. Today's convening is an attempt to give my people another chance at getting back on their feet. Last October, in collaboration with our development partners, we prepared a post-disaster needs assessment, PDNA, that calculated the total destruction and economic losses from the floods to exceed $30 billion, which is 8% of Pakistan's GDP, pushing 9 million people into abject poverty. Excellencies, the Pakistani nation, as well as the state, has responded courageously to this catastrophe. Those who had little came forward to help those who had lost everything. Millions volunteered to feed, clothe and shelter their unfortunate brothers and sisters. 20,000 troops, hundreds of helicopters, aircrafts and motorboats were mobilized for round-the-clock rescue operations. And in that, I count those wonderful contributions from our friendly countries in the Middle East, in Europe, Far East, and from other parts of the world. They saved thousands of lives and quickly restored disrupted communications. All resilience funds were repurposed to provide cash grants of over $400 million to more than 2.7 million households. Despite our acute financial constraints, we mobilized around $575 million for the emergency, including the UN flash appeal. Excellencies, the one lesson we have learned is that nothing can go back to business as usual. Tough choices will continue to be made, and I'm painfully aware that a taxonomy of harder and harsher reforms will make lives in the Pakistani streets and villages harsher than ever before. But the scale of the resource gap for funding crisis recovery is so wide that it has redefined how we think about resilience. Frankly, it has changed life forever. Building on the post-disaster needs assessment, my government has prepared a comprehensive framework plan for recovery, rehabilitation, and reconstruction with resilience. Its broad contours are set out in the 4RF document that will be presented to you in the next session of the conference. The first part of the 4RF plan reflects the priorities for recovery and reconstruction, bearing in mind the minimum funding requirement of $16.3 billion, half of which is proposed to be met from domestic resources and the other half from our own development partners and friends. The second part of the framework plan incorporates flood resilience in the design and infrastructure projects, such as protecting key highways, the main railway line network, as well as an early warning system and capacity building for rescue and relief in future disasters. Our funding gap for minimum recovery is $8 billion and will be needed over the span of the next 3 years. Excellencies, it is clear that Pakistan's ability to recover from the colossal flood disaster, to restore critical infrastructure and revive rapid economic growth will hinge substantially on the speed of these actions. And the most important link in this chain will be financial resourcing. If that gap continues to obstruct our recovery and minimum resilience needs, the results may be too catastrophic to imagine. This conference is not just about helping to rebuild the lives and livelihoods of the people affected by global crisis. In fact, it is about the solidarity and vision needed to ensure the world's transition to a sustainable future, not just on paper or PowerPoint, but on the ground, in schools, in the fields, in businesses, in industry and homes. Even as we plan for a future of resilience, the shocks that disaster bring can never be wholly accounted for, but resilient society or PowerPoint, but on the ground, in schools, in the fields, in businesses, in industry and homes. Even as we plan for a future of resilience, the shocks that disaster bring can never be wholly accounted for, but resilient societies look for the light of opportunity in the darkness of disaster. It is precisely this kind of strategic reset that I'm trying to kickstart today in seeking your support for a recovery plan for the people of Pakistan who are, by the grace of God, very resilient. I know these are times of extreme pressure and economic hardships in many countries, but Pakistan needs a new coalition of the willing, one that can save lives and put them on a path to responsible global citizenship. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm asking of you is more than a rebooting of your compassion for humanitarian relief needs. Today, I am asking for your support for those who have lost their life savings, their homes and livelihoods, those who are sitting under blue sky, facing the harshest of winters and looking forward to your help and support from mankind. I am asking for a sustained international support plan to meet this daunting challenge. I am asking for a new lifeline for people who need to power our economy and re-enter the 21st century with a future that is protected for such extreme risks to human security. Together, we have to rebuild their lives and their dreams. Your solidarity and long-term support to the people of Pakistan at this very critical juncture will make the difference between staying unprepared or facing the future with renewed hope and aspirations. In the end, I thank you once again for your support in this conference today. Your unity of thought and action will always be remembered by the people of Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your leadership. I now request Son Excellence Monsieur Emmanuel Macron, Président de la République française, to join us remotely from Paris.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. Secretary General of the United Nations, Prime Minister, Heads of State and Government, Ministers, Ambassadors, Permanent Representatives, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for organizing this conference and allowing me to take the floor before you to bear testimony to French support for Pakistan. Last summer, the worst happened. We saw this in the images that were presented. We heard this in the testimony of the Secretary General and the Prime Minister. The great esteem and respect of the French people has been won by the people and government of Pakistan when they were mobilized with great strength and courage after they saw and suffered the direct impact of climate change. I'd like to hail the World Bank, the UNDP, the United Nations, the Asian Bank of Development, and the 4RF, a high-quality matrix, a framework for deploying efforts for recovery with assistance from the international community in Pakistan. Secretary General, Prime Minister, you have laid out very clearly the impact of these floods on the population, infrastructure, on the economy, on homes, and the need that we see to help rebuild and handle the consequences on an international level. It is urgent, and it has been urgent since the first day. France has sent equipment and personnel to help people affected on the ground. 40 million euros was mobilized by the United Nations. A dozen countries across the world were mobilized to this end. However, 30% of the appeal launched by the United Nations has been met, and only 30%. Many needs remain, notably in the area of food, notably as temperatures fall during the winter season. France is meeting its responsibility with bringing a new contribution of 10 million for urgent aid in healthcare. The World Fund for fighting AIDS, malaria and other diseases, France has supported this with another $10 million to bring to the people of Pakistan urgent material and need to meet their medical needs and continue treatment. Another component is resilience, ensuring that the country has the ability to meet its needs. These problems will not vanish in the short term when a country is exposed to such a great shock. All of the institutions, financial institutions, must be able to mobilize to support more resilient recovery. As concerns France, adaptation to climate change is at the heart of our development policies, and 2 billion euros will be allocated by us each year in line with our international obligations, which the Secretary General reiterated just now. In Pakistan, we have decided to mobilize more than 300 million euros of projects that will be launched to meet the challenges of resilient reconstruction and therefore climate adaptation also. Finally, there is the goal to draw all of the necessary conclusions from what has happened and to accompany the authorities in Pakistan to conduct appropriate reforms and to ensure that authorities in Pakistan to conduct appropriate reforms and to ensure that recovery and reconstruction is compliant with international financing systems. We saw a few weeks ago in Sharm el-Sheikh, and I'd like to say again, that we support the Bridgetown agenda in France. We discussed this with the Prime Minister of Barbados, and we would like to provide support to Pakistan in the short term in its negotiations with the financial institutions, the multilateral bodies, but more broadly also for Pakistan and for all countries in similar situations beyond the funds that were decided on loss and damage in Sharm el-Sheikh. We want to build greater bonds between North and South with the goal of laying the foundation for bank-based reconstruction involving the IMF, also reforming international financial regulations in order to adapt internationally on the financial level to climate change. With the UAE also, and at the G7 and the G20, we want to ensure this is on the agenda also. So these are the three key components that I wanted to mention at this conference, and I'd like to underscore that France is a member of the international group of countries supporting Pakistan, implementing international assistance, conducting reforms, and over the coming months, we will, on a daily basis and for the long term, be providing the expertise, the financial support that you need. We will be shoulder to shoulder with the people of Pakistan and also learning from what has happened and adapting for the future. Prime Minister, on a personal level, I would like to offer our full support, and I would like to ask you that you can transfer to the people of Pakistan the support of France and the French people. Thank you.
Selamlıyorum. Değerli kardeşim Bakan Sayın Shehbaz Sharif'e ve Birleşmiş Milletler Genel Sekreteri Sayın Guterres'e nazik davetleri için teşekkür ediyorum. Geçtiğimiz aylarda yaşanan sel felaketleri nedeniyle Pakistanlı kardeşlerimize bir kez daha geçmiş olsun dileklerimi iletiyorum. Hayatını kaybedenlere Allah'tan rahmet, yakınlarına sabrı cemil, yaralılara acil şifalar niyaz ediyorum. Türkiye olarak tarih boyunca hep olduğu gibi bu zor gününde de Pakistan halkını yalnız bırakmadık. 15 uçak ve 13 trenle gönderdiğimiz 7.500 tondan fazla insani yardım malzemesi.
Sisters in Pakistan due to the flood disasters in the past months. I wish Allah's mercy on those who lost their lives and patience for their relatives. I wish a speedy recovery to the injured. In Turkey, we have stood by the people of Pakistan during their difficult days, as we have always done throughout history. We delivered more than 7,500 tons of humanitarian aid, which we sent on 15 planes and 13 trains. In addition, we shared the products we obtained locally with the disaster victims. We also sent 2 ships bearing more than 1,630 tons of humanitarian aid. I believe that with the arrival of these vessels at their ports, the troubles of our Pakistani brothers and sisters will, to some degree, be alleviated. Immediately after the floods, our Interior and Environment Ministers visited Pakistan, along with representatives of Turkey and Afad. Our delegation conducted inspections in the disaster areas and received briefings from the Pakistani authorities. Intense efforts were conducted to meet the needs that were identified and bring the issue to the attention of the international community. With the efforts of Turkey, as well as other countries and international organizations, we see that the people of Pakistan are now beginning to recover from their suffering. However, it remains clear that more collaboration and cooperation is needed in the face of the devastating effects of the climate crisis. Climate change and the challenges it produces are a common concern of all humanity. The disaster in Pakistan once again demonstrates what devastation climate change can cause. The struggle against these and similar disasters must be continued in solidarity with the framework of our chosen strategy. Turkey fulfilled its responsibilities in terms of contributing to this global struggle. In addition to the disaster areas, reconstruction of all disaster-prone locations in Pakistan in a climate-resilient way can avert additional suffering. Turkey stands ready now to contribute to meeting the immediate needs of these victims in Pakistan, as well as supporting the reconstruction process. In this context, Turkey continues to remain in contact with the Pakistani authorities. Afad and Turkish NGOs are also showing the necessary sensitivity in delivering humanitarian aid. I believe that our Pakistani brothers and sisters, who have faced many difficulties throughout history, will, inshallah, easily overcome this period of trouble. Turkey will continue to stand by the brotherly Pakistani people in the coming period, as we have done in the past. May Allah keep our Pakistani brothers and sisters safe from all future disasters and calamities. I hope that the conference will increase global support for Pakistan. I would like finally to thank everyone who helped put together the program, and I greet you once again with affection.
We will now hear a video statement from His Excellency Mr. Jonas Gahr Støre, Prime Minister of Norway.
Prime Minister Sharif, Secretary General Guterres, ladies and gentlemen. The catastrophic floods that hit Pakistan last year caused unimaginable damage. Norway and many other countries contributed to the immediate response, but the needs remain enormous. We must do more to find collective solutions to the foremost challenge of our times, climate change, in following up the decisions taken in Sharm el-Sheikh. We will maintain our direct support to Pakistan in the period ahead and focus our attention on helping those whose lives have been devastated by climate change. This is an endeavor for the entire international community, and you can count on Norway taking its part. Thank you and good luck. Following up the decisions
There will now be a video statement by Her Excellency Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission.
whose lives have been devastated by climate change.
Fellow leaders, dear Prime Minister Sharif, dear Secretary General Guterres, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank Prime Minister Sharif and Secretary General Antonio Guterres for this timely conference. 2022 was a difficult year for the world. We just overcame the pandemic, and Russia started its brutal invasion against Ukraine. But on top of this, Pakistan was hit by one of the biggest natural disasters anywhere. Deadly flooding, which affected millions of people. It destroyed livelihoods, crops and infrastructure, and put pressure on the most vulnerable people. The European Union, together with its member states, was among the first to react. Our Team Europe response to this tragedy was immediate and substantial. But the scale of the devastation is enormous. Vast surfaces of cropland and villages remained underwater for months. Nearly 10 million girls and boys remain in need of immediate support, according to UNICEF. So more support is needed. And today we are endorsing an ambitious reconstruction plan. We are joining forces with our partners to help put Pakistan on its path to recovery. Our Team Europe support to the reconstruction of Pakistan is around 500 million euro, including our humanitarian assistance. And the EU and Pakistan have just agreed an 87 million euro package in line with our Global Gateway strategy. In parallel to keep supporting the affected communities, the European Union is stepping up its humanitarian assistance with an additional 10 million euros. This brings Team Europe's humanitarian support for Pakistan to 172 million euros. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of Pakistan is in the hands of its people. I wish the government of Pakistan every success with the implementation of its ambitious reform plan. We will continue to assist, including through the support group to be created following this conference. I wish you a very fruitful discussion. Thank you very much.
I now request His Excellency Mr. Ignacio Cassis, Federal Councillor, Head of the Federal Department of Foreign Affairs of Switzerland, to give his statement. Sir.
Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'ami apparaît dans les moments difficiles, pas dans les grands dîners. C'est ce qui dit un proverbe pakistanais. Bienvenue en Suisse. Aujourd'hui, je vous accueille car nous, les amis du Pakistan, sommes réunis pour faire face à une situation difficile. Il s'agit de...
Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends appear in times of hardship, not during great banquets. This is what a Pakistani proverb tells us. So welcome to Switzerland. Today, I welcome you because we, the friends of Pakistan, will face this difficult situation together. The issue of the day is to support Pakistan, which has suffered the full effects last summer of the devastating impact of climate change. This is an urgent situation, and therefore we must act together in an effective manner in the spirit of solidarity. Switzerland stands shoulder to shoulder with Pakistan. We must hold out our hand to our friends, to the agencies who must be able to be us, any of us. One thing is certain. No one is completely safe. We are all, everyone, concerned by climate change, a global risk that requires global action. I would like to thank the United Nations Secretary General and the Prime Minister of Pakistan for initiating this international conference on Pakistan and the climate.
To International Geneva. Chers amis,
My dear friends, when Switzerland learned of the tragic effects of the floods that struck Pakistan and its people last summer, we did not hesitate. In line with our humanitarian tradition, we immediately sent a team of experts into the north-west of the country with a budget of 4 million Swiss francs and deployed for 3 months. Our team of experts focused on rebuilding schools, hydraulic systems and bridges. 5 million francs were allocated for short-term assistance. In the field, we were able to act in a difficult context. Sadly, extreme weather events are not the only challenge faced by this.
Help the batsman because under the light coming nicely, so that's why Karachi surface is good.
What about your team? Was the contribution of 6 million Swiss francs to the High Commission of the United Nations to support and welcome Afghan refugees in Pakistan.
overflows where the banks are weak, as a Pakistani saying goes. Cette allégorie me touche.
This proverb touches me also because it underscores the principle of the challenge of international cooperation and the climate. We must work together. We must ensure that we do not fail in fragile and vulnerable areas. Switzerland is ready to support dialogue, the request for solutions in the region, but also to support the quest for financial solutions. I would like to say here that the 4RF framework for resilient recovery, rehabilitation and reconstruction presented here by Pakistan is a model that can be followed. This framework resonates perfectly with the spirit of International Geneva, and I invite you all to implement this framework so that it may be crowned with success. Thank you for your attention.
Merci, excellent.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you very much for hosting us here in Geneva.
We will be now taking your seats. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention.
Merci, excellent.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you very much.
पाकिस्तान के सैलाब मुतासरीन की बहाली के लिए जिनीवा में बैनुल-अक़वामी कॉन्फ्रेंस मुख्तलिफ ममालिक के सरबराहान की जानिब से पाकिस्तान में सैलाब से होने वाली तबाही पर अफसोस का इजहार किया गया। तुर्किया के सदर रजब तैयब एर्दोगान और फ्रांसीसी सदर एमिनुल मैक्रोन ने भी कॉन्फ्रेंस से खिताब किया। इससे पहले पाकिस्तान की जानिब से वज़ीर आज़म शहबाज शरीफ ने आलमी ताकतों और ममालिक से मदद की अपील की। मुल्क में हालिया सैलाब की तबाहकारियों के बारे में दुनिया को आगाह किया। वज़ीर ख़ारजा बिलावल भुट्टो ने भी इस कॉन्फ्रेंस से खिताब किया। आलमी मौसमियाती तब्दीलियों से पाकिस्तान सबसे ज़्यादा मुतासिर है। पाकिस्तान में सैलाब से बड़े पैमाने पर तबाही फैली, मकानात, तालीमी इदारे, ज़राअत को शदीद नुकसान पहुँचा। ये कहना था वज़ीर आज़म का, जिन्होंने जिनीवा में मुतासरीन सैलाब की बहाली के लिए मुनक़्क़िदा कॉन्फ्रेंस से खिताब किया। सैलाब की तबाहकारियों से निमटने के लिए पाकिस्तान ने 4 मरहलों पर मुश्तमिल जामे प्लान भी पेश किया है। बराह रास्त आप देख रहे थे, पाकिस्तान के सैलाब मुतासरीन की बहाली के लिए जिनीवा में बैनुल-अक़वामी कॉन्फ्रेंस का इनेकाद किया गया है। डोनर ममालिक की जानिब से भी मदद की अपील की गई है। खिताबात किए गए फ्रांसीसी सदर एमिनुल मैक्रोन की जानिब से। इसके अलावा तुर्किया के सदर रजब तैयब एर्दोगान ने भी इस कॉन्फ्रेंस से खिताब किया। मुख्तलिफ ममालिक के सरबराहान की जानिब से पाकिस्तान में सैलाब से होने वाली तबाही पर अफसोस का इजहार किया गया। बुलेटिन में यहां वक्त हुआ है न्यूज हेडलाइंस का।
हेडलाइंस के लिए ताउन किया है नई सनसिल्क सुपर मिक्स के साथ।